Next thing in the podcast today is Andy's top tips. So we've got both a Garmin and a SatMap top tip. So what's your Garmin's top tip for this month, Andy?
Okay. Garmin top tip, it's more based on the sort of questions I get on a regular basis from customers. With the Garmin touchscreen unit, so for Facebook users, I've got an Oregon 700 in my hands here. Often get calls from customers saying they've had a screen freeze, the screen's frozen on them. Now this isn't a regular occurrence, there's always a reason for something happening on a unit. The same as, you know, any electrical device, there's normally a reason why something's not working as it should. Screen freezes, just because I get asked this on, you know, a reasonably regular basis, why would we get a screen freeze on a GPS? The most common reasons are battery type and the battery setting in the unit, and you have a map card in the back of the unit, a little micro SD card, and that's not sitting in correctly. So those of you using a Garmin, whether it be a touchscreen device or the push button devices, what I'd say to you, always make sure when you're changing batteries, you could be using alkaline, lithium, rechargeable batteries, that you go into your setup and system and you look at the battery type, because batteries all have different voltages. And a lot of customers, when they phone me and said they've had a screen freeze, as soon as I get them to check their battery setting, I find they've got that battery setting not set the same as the battery they're using. Because you make sure if you're using lithium batteries, you go in and change that setting. Otherwise, the unit's looking for a different voltage. While I'm on the battery side of things, one of the batteries that catches people out is you can buy a newer type of rechargeable battery called pre-charged or Eneloop, Panasonic Eneloop batteries. They're a type called pre-charged. There is a setting in your Garmin GPS called pre-charged, NIMH. You make sure you set that up in the unit. The second one that I mentioned is the micro SD card that has your maps on. When the unit's booting up or you're moving around with the unit, if that little micro SD card in the back of your unit isn't sitting behind the metal clip properly, it's got dislodged, you've knocked it when changing batteries, I would always say if you've had a screen freeze, take the back off your unit, take the batteries out, make sure that little micro SD card with your maps on is locked in place correctly. You can always put a bit of tape over the clip to stop it being knocked. When you put your batteries back in and turn the unit on, check your battery settings. So that's the Garmin top tip.
Put some sellotape over that map card. We've said that a few times.
Stops you losing your map card when you're changing batteries as well, in case you knock the little metal clip. But batteries is my biggest bugbear. It tends to be an iffy set of batteries. It could be an old set of recharge. When rechargeable batteries start degrading, you find sometimes the chargers will actually put too much charge in the battery and the voltage from them's too high. So if you start getting issues with the screen and you've had batteries you've been using for some time, it's worth just changing to a new set of batteries. Check that battery setting.
So when your screen starts to freeze on a Garmin device, check your battery settings correct and check that micro SD card is seated correctly. So your SatMap top tip, Andy?
Something's changed recently on the SatMap Active 20 units, where those of you who've got an Active 20 unit, you've probably seen you can save a breadcrumb trail, a track in the unit, and when you've been out from a walk from the trip log screen. Now what you used to be able to do when the Active 20 first came out, if you saved a track, you could find that track in the routes menu in a folder called tracks, and you could amend it, you could edit it, you could reverse it and do things with it. What SatMap have now done, they really want you to convert that track to a route before you start amending it and editing it. It's to stop you accidentally deleting what they call raw track data that you've recorded that you may need. It could be someone using the unit for business, for recording a survey, and they don't want you to muck up that track recording. So just those of you who've got the Active 20 and you've updated your software recently and you're suddenly realising when you save a track you can't actually edit or amend that track, what you need to do is when you've saved the track from the trip log screen, go into your routes menu, you'll find a folder called tracks, you'll see your raw track recording there with the date and time. If you select that track and then select the actions button, you get the option to convert it to a route. If you then convert it to a route, that same recording appears in a routes folder and you can do anything you want with it. You can edit it, edit the name, reverse it. And also what we find is the routes take up a lot less data because it takes some of the track points out. It still keeps the route exactly the same shape, but it reduces the size of it, so it takes up a lot less memory in your unit. And once you've converted to a route, you can actually just delete that track as long as you've converted it to a route.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. That's your Garmin and SatMap top tips for this month. The final thing we're going to